Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different along with what we have been doing. As you can see, the title is not exactly the same as what they usually are. Alright, you see, I'm going into this one completely blind, and if you're wondering why I'm doing so, it's because, this next one that we're going to be reviewing is a little out of the way. You see, I was going to be doing episode 3 of Futabu, but I decided this was a special case in and of itself. You see, I myself have never seen what this is. All I know it is by its reputation. Now, Redo of a Healer was being pronounced, the thing that rather blurs or breaks the line between anime and hentai. And that is a little, scary to me. Because, from what I've heard, it's not a great anime. It's not even a good anime. That being said, it's still somehow considered an anime, which has piqued my not only interest, but nuts. They need to know. So, right now I'm going in 100% blind, and we'll see you on the other side. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and back to another episode of Dr. Dojinchi's Hentai Reviews. And today we are going to be talking about a new specimen which I just got done finished watching. And y'all motherfuckers are some sensitive ass bitches if you think this is bad. Now, personally, after only seeing the first episode, I can safely say I've seen worse. Worse. Now today, as I've said before, we're going to be talking about a redo of a healer. Healer, or as the name in Japanese is... Damn, that's a long one. Okay. Keifuku Jutsushi no Yari no Oshi. Episode 1. I don't give a fuck. I fucked it up. I'm white. You guys know this by now. Now, run by the studio TNK. I am not familiar with a lot of their stuff. I've seen a few animes in my time, but I haven't heard of the studio itself. Now, running at 24 minutes long and 6 seconds, with a total of 12 categories, notable of which being monster, horror, and mind break. Now, if y'all are expecting some serial experiments laying shit in this, you're sorely mistaken. Now, let's go ahead and get on to the rest of the review as we do. Oh, let's continue. Starting out, the main character, Kearu, is standing over a beaten girl as the house around him burns. As I'm very well, you've seen the certain meme that pops up every once in a while that is very reminiscent of a certain Star Wars. That being said, it then cuts to him in a while ago, awakening to figure out what his class will be. Typical anime-style fantasy land where, they're trying to figure out what they can do. Oh, RPG style. Well, he then goes along and talks about his whole thing, and he suffers from the same nightmare over and over and over, as if he's fighting a demon lord. Or then deciding to go walk outside, he then takes a slight jaunter over yonder, falls deep into his understanding of, weird visions mean weird things, man, and walks out into the middle of the woods while having these visions. Those visions then lead to him wandering up into a convenient plot pond that just so happens to have a Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table style Deus Ex Machina elf lady that decides to give him the ability to see your enemy's stats. If you picked up that perk in any of the Fallout 4 playthroughs you've done, I gotta say, you're a little bitch who needs a lot more skill. No. She then kisses him on the eye, giving him true sight. Sight beyond sight. Right. Which then leads to a jump cut to him and a whole bunch of other people fighting the Demon Lord herself. Demon King, even though it's a female. I don't know, call yourself whatever you want. It's just a title. Well, she then continues to fight off the heroes who are showing up. The Demon King defeats all the heroes, and then the only one left standing is our natural healer, who has a noticeably larger grin on his face as he runs around the battlefield, kind of beating the shit out of everybody as he explains his healing abilities. Now, if you're wondering why I'm putting so much emphasis on healing, it's because he is doing bullshit. Healing does not work that way in any way, shape, or form, no matter how you try to look at it. You are healing. And this motherfucker is warping the fabric of reality and saying that it's just another form of healing. Just because icing off a wart is a way to get rid of it and heal yourself of the infection does not mean healing abilities are cryomancy. And sometimes amputating an arm doesn't mean you can instantly destroy something and it's technically healed. But I'm digressing. After he explains how his healing bullshit is also Dr. Manhattan levels of fuck you, I'm overpowered, he then goes into pretty much everything that he can do. And the reason why he's so pissed off at everybody and decides to not heal any of his party members, even though he was kind of told that's the only thing he's good for. Of which his noticeable emotional scars consist of every time he heals somebody, he then relives all the fear, anger, and pain that the person has ever gone through in their life, which can leave a emotional pain on somebody. Pretty much PTSD every single time you do it, unless you heal a little bitch who hasn't done anything their entire life. He then talks about how he was forced into being a drug addict, which, I don't know if you know this or not, but that's bad. It's one of those things that hurts a lot, and it can possibly ruin families. Shredded childhood. He was also grape. He's a grape victim. Yeah, always nice to have that in a colorful fantasy anime. Looking at you, Berserk. And then it talks about how he was generally enslaved, kind of kept as a pen. He tried to run away, didn't work, they found him, and then all three things that I listed before this then happened over and over and over again. And continuing on, he then decides to go after the Demon Lord himself, defeats her, and then inside of her essentially has a little vial that looks like a discount Philosopher's Stone from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And he then says, fuck you, lady I was supposed to heal. I'ma reset this bitch, and I'm also gonna point you out as the bitch I'ma fuck up. And he pulls the infinite reverse Uno card and then resets the world back to what it should have been. To the exact moment he then received his healing ability. He then received his eye stat understanding ability from the magic fairy. He then says, I'm going to fuck you up, bitch. And then wanders off back to the place in which he came from. Which case he spends the time in between then and when the princess is going to find him, essentially microdosing on mushrooms to then grow an immunity to any sort of poison she's going to use on him. I gotta say, getting fucked up in the woods does not mean getting literally poisoned. There's a difference between having fun at Woodstock and getting hemorrhoids. Some of us don't like infections, and you're giving them to yourself willingly. Enjoy the doctor visit. That's going to be hard to deal with. Oh wait, no, you're a healer. You can just warp reality and say, fuck it. Now, afterwards of doing that, he then is revealed to have the little healer mark right there on his hand, which is a weird place to have it, but anime has rules, and rules say it's on your backhand. And the princess then comes to say, I'd like to meet this new hero that's being brought in there. He raises his hand, is brought in there. He goes up to the palace, meets the king, thing. It's very arrogant. It's very apparent that the princess is putting on a nice goody girl act the entire time. And then kind of goes along the way you'd think that stuck-up bitches like that deal. You know, with the father sees him as a help, the princess is a fuckface, and then he's given a bed for the middle of the night, told that he will be able to heal somebody early in the morning. Of which case, he is then accosted by a certain maid that shows up, and my boy gets the first scene in this. I don't want to say hentai, and I don't want to say anime, so I'm just going to say, HENTAI, because Haname is the site I used. Shout out to you guys. Nice. Of which there is only one scene that lasts for an approximate 1 minute, from 18 minutes and 30 seconds to 19 minutes and 30 seconds. Overall, an incredibly tame scene that does warrant what it does for the amount of ass and boobs you do see on the screen, but I gotta say, from what I've been exposed to, it's nothing. But it does give some nice shots as it does transitions between either nights that he's been there or hours that he's been there. And if it's the latter of the two, my boy got game even for the PTSD he be rocking with. So now, afterwards, it then pushes over to him essentially trying to be the nicest guy that he can as he then plots revenge on this evil bitch princess who did all these horrible things to him in her past life that she has no memory of, although she is still a bit of a cunt. And that being said, he then goes up to the person he was supposed to heal during the time and then places his hand on her, regenerates the lost limb while also going through all of her trauma, and then pushes her back to what she could do. She's healed and fully happy. He's having a stroke on the ground because he's going through her entire life of pain. And then the princess decides this is a good time to shit-talk him into existence. Of which case she proves that she's a massive bitch. He's awake the entire time, but pretending to be asleep so he can make sure that she's just as deserving this go-around as she was the final go-around, as she was the original go-around. And as she says, I want you to brainwash him and make him do as I please. Of which case, he does not take very kindly, and the episode ends right there, right then. Now, let's go ahead and get into the 3 pillars of this week's... I don't even know where I'm going with this. Now, this is a weird one to judge because I'm judging this off of hentai standards, even though this is an anime, technically. That being said, brace yourselves, because I'm going to have some weird takes on this one. Animation. It does have anime levels of quality. Yeah, that's pretty spot on. Basic anime quality is pretty much a guaranteed 9 out of 10 when it comes to this sort of thing. So I will be giving it a 9 out of 10 just for mostly the fight scenes, honestly. And for the one sex scene, they did put a little bit of budget into the just the movements of the girls and the guy along with it. And I gotta say, it's pretty appreciated that they knew where to put the budget. That being said, I'm afraid of why there's so many tags because of the next episodes that might come out. And I will be reviewing them, maybe not one at a time, but I may give a general plot synopsis of a few episodes at a time because this is a weird fucker and I don't know how this is going to do. Overall, 9 out of 10 on animation. And characters. Characters are mean as fuck. And the guy is the only one that's understandable. Even though this is the first episode and I've been told it gets worse, I'm not exactly 100% sure how this is going. The princess is a bitch for no reason. And pretty much every other character is pretty stock standard, hopeful person trying to want to see the world to get better. And the hero is a very loose term from what I've been hearing. The healer, let's just say that. The healer, not exactly doing all this for good reasons. He wants to fuck up a girl. In which case, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. The motives are understandable for the people that have understandable motives. Everybody else is pretty stock standard, because I am judging this off of hentai standards, not actual ones. If people have a clear definition of what they want to do in the very first episode, that is an 8 out of 10. Most places don't really have that sort of plot development in episode 1. And now what we're all here for, the plot. Being that it is pretty tame for what it is and takes almost no use of any of the tags that it does have, despicable and weird as they are, I gotta say, this is a pretty disappointing on that end. A single scene that is not very well done in certain portions, while also not having a ton of variety in it. Now, I do understand that this is technically an anime, but it's on a hentai site and it shall be judged as such. I wouldn't stand in a group full of athletes and claim that I'm one of them unless I'm going to be judged as equally as they are going to be. Just because I'm wearing a jersey doesn't mean I can spiral a football 100 yards. And lucky you if you can do that. Overall, I'd give the plot of the entire thing a 4 out of 10. And for what's there, pretty decent. For what's there and it's being done, also pretty decent. For the amount that's in it, it's a minute of a 24-minute series, and I understand they're working on plot, but that plot was pretty easy to miss, and the only reason I didn't miss it is because I was actively taking notes to do this review. 4 out of 10, and overall, this score is going to be a little bit weird, because as an anime, I would say that this is a solid first episode to get me invested in what's going to happen, because this does set up for a tortured soul that becomes a better person, but from what I've heard, that is not the case of this. But as a first episode of a hentai, it damn well earns its 7 out of 10. And 7 out of 10 being averaged out for its lack of plot, but overabundance of plot. Pretty stock standard. And I would say that this is a strong recommendation for somebody who sees this as a hentai and nothing more, but as somebody who sees this as an anime, I wouldn't call it anything super special. I'd say it's worth a good look into the first episode. If you feel anything, then I'd probably watch the next episode and kind of go on from there. But if you're just looking to get everything going down south beneath the belt, I'd recommend something a little bit better, because this has potential in both fields, but not equally so. That being said, I would like to say thank you to everybody that's been here and everybody that's come here in the time being. I'd like to thank every single one of my patients, all 34 of the ones that were currently around during the filming of this episode. Thank you all, and I appreciate the fuck out of you. Now, before I leave, thank you everybody for being here. I appreciate the fuck out of you. Don't be a dick, there's too many of them. Have a nice day, and wash your fucking hands. I have been Dr. Dojinshi, and peace out.